like butter.
Speaking of butter and buttery complexions, it's No King's Day.
Yeah.
As the recording of this, there's even protest in our small section of the world.
Mm-hmm. It looks like there was a decent amount of people up there too.
If I wasn't wearing my shorty shorts, I might go after the gym. Like, hey, fuck him. Fuck the king. Fake king. Dictator. Wannabe asshole. I'm not going to go into the political nature of things, but I will say this. Any administration that claims they want to save money by firing all kinds of workers and cutting beneficial programs that help Americans, but then go around and have a multi-$100 million fucking parade for one guy's birthday, could get fucked.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say on that.
I agree.
You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Bridgeport Booger Bumper Church.
Oh.
Bumping booger. I couldn't think of a better B verb.
Yeah.
Blaster? I guess blaster would have worked. Booger blaster. The Bridgeport Booger Blaster. I like that better than bumper.
Yeah.
That's how you bump a booger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless it's like the Bastion Booger.
Maybe.
The wrestler.
Maybe, yeah.
And I think he's dead. He was morbidly obese, so he has to be dead.
I'm going to say there's a lot of wrestlers that are dead.
More wrestlers dead than alive.
It's
I would say. It's not funny. Don't laugh at that. Today, I think, is a revisit, which actually I think last episode about famous writing styles is also a revisit. But this one, we might even talk about this article before. I don't fucking remember. But on the save file, I noticed that we did a famous writing routines. And I vaguely remember talking about routines, though I think we talked about creating a healthy writing routine. This one, we're just going to talk about some famous people, but what made me want to do this, Spencer? Killer Come Back to Me by Ray Bradbury. It's his whole collection of crime stories put out by Hard Case Crime.
how many's in there?
Bunch. I don't you want me to count them.
I thought maybe you just might have had an idea. I figured you would have counted them at some point in time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 stories.
Yeah, that's
It probably says right on the fucking cover. Yeah, 21 great stories from a young Ray Bradbury. These were all mostly, if not all, written when he was in his 20s.
Right.
But at the end of the book, there is a quick couple page spread about Ray Bradbury, and he discusses his writing routine, especially back when he was a young man just starting out. And I'm just going to read the one page here I thought was interesting. Starting back in the year when I left Los Angeles High School, I put myself on a regimen of writing one story a week for the rest of my life. That's fucking ridiculous. Yeah. I knew that without quantity, there would never be any quality. I sensed that my stories at the time were so bad that only practice could clean the junk out of my head and let the good stuff flow. In the meantime, I tried to cram as much literary experience as I could, good, bad, indifferent, or excellent, into my eyeballs so that eventually it would jump out of my fingertips. He's reading a lot, too. So every Monday, I wrote a first draft of any story that leaped into my head. Imagine writing a first draft in one day.
Oh, my God.
Fucking asshole. On Tuesday, I wrote, and he did it on a typewriter.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I wrote a second draft. So he did his revisions in the second draft on Tuesday, the day after. On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, third, fourth, and fifth versions followed. On Saturday, the final draft went into the mail, so he mailed it out too. So he already had a place idea for where these stories were going. On Sunday, I collapsed for a day on the beach with Lee, and on Monday, Lee was a writer friend of his. And on Monday, I was back starting a new story. What a fucking whirlwind week. And I'm assuming Ray Bradbury didn't have a job.
Yeah,
he was just making money writing.
That was one of the things because you sent me that picture. And then just in the, because I'm also reading a collection of his.
The October Country.
Yeah, and then they have the front thing of like, how he talks about he hopes that he dies before his voice dies.
Yeah.
But in that, he's also talking about like, he got a little bit into like the routine of his writing thing. And then it was just like, yeah, like, is this guy like, he must have like you said, like no job. Like that
was his job, I guess. He made his money selling stories.
Yeah.
Basically. But I guess it was at a time where he could afford to do that. I don't know.
Well, oh no. And I think like in mine, he talked about like, because like he was even like writing in like high school.
Yeah.
Like he was selling stories in high school.
Yeah. He's a good writer. You can do that.
Well, could you imagine at that young of an age knowing what you? Because like I don't know about you, but like in high school, like
You didn't know what you wanted to be.
I felt like like artists, comic book artists, but you know what I mean. But like no, I wasn't like making comic book pages or anything like that, or you know what I mean. Trying to come up with stories and stuff like that. Could you imagine being that at that such a young age, knowing what you wanted to do and was like actively doing it, like working on it?
I don't know what Ray Bradbury's upbringing was like, but at some point in his life, somebody or something fostered not just a love for writing, but direction in him. That's one thing I never had in my life, was somebody giving me direction or saying, "Hey, you could do this if you're interested." I always wanted to be a writer, but I never had like any. When I was a kid, I would write stories here and there. But nobody was like, "Oh, let me read it," and like feedback. Nothing. There was nothing. It was just me writing into the fucking ether. So after all that, Ray Bradbury, he goes back to Monday, starts a new story every week. So it has gone for some 44 years. That's the rating of this. He did that 44 years straight. I am still writing a story a week, or its equivalent. These days I do 7 or 8 poems a week, or a 1-act play, or 3 chapters of a new novel, or an essay, but the same number of pages come out now as came out years ago, somewhere between 18 and 32 pages a week.
Cool.
You mentioned Stephen King.
Yeah,
we thought his writing output was ridiculous. Yeah. This guy.
But also, it feels like, and I can't remember if it said in that or again in the October Country one, but like you can tell that he just loves just the act of writing. Yeah. To where like I like it, but like there's times where I'm just like, it's the last thing I feel like I ever want to do. Like, but you can tell he like, if they weren't going out being published anywhere, he would probably still just go home and write stories at his typewriter and just like put them in his drawer, even if they weren't getting famous.
You have to assume that he had days where they just didn't flow. It had to be, but
yeah, you'd think. But
I think the attempt still counts for something. So he was still doing it.
And again, and if he's doing that affords you the but we've also talked about how the fucking ridiculous output he's had of how many books and short stories. So when you hear that, it makes sense.
Well, wasn't he the one who had the writing or the reading advice? You should every day read a short story, a poem, an essay, or article, and whatever. I do find for me sometimes that if I'm lacking in the creativity for short story prose, I can do poetry. Usually my poems come about when I can't write. Like I'm just like, I fucking can't do. It's just like I can't do, like you said, like the act of writing for some reason is daunting that day. It's like I can't do full paragraphs and stuff. But poetry doesn't have to be full paragraphs. True. So I could just do the imagery that I like, and that's it. And a lot of times I don't do anything with those. I just sometimes that helps me get into actually writing short stories. Other times it's just like, well, at least I did that today. I expressed some creativity.
It keeps the creative faucet might not have been flowing, but it was at least dripping.
Yeah, which is better than nothing. This is back to Bradbury. I hasten to add that all this was not mechanical. I didn't hold myself to account. I didn't have to. I love what I was doing, so like you were saying, even as a mother loves her homely or ugly babies. You may or may not like my children, but at the time I wrote them, I was plowing my typewriter and reaping the paragraphs. I think plowing's used differently now than it was back then. God protects young writers. So he's not just fucking the shit out. I mean, maybe he was. He was finger fucking that typewriter. He's making love to it.
He's making that typewriter come.
That's a little gross. Come in that black inky ink. God protects young writers so they do not know at the time how badly off-center they are performing. When you're a young writer, I do miss the innocence of just being like, everything I write's good. Yeah. Like, you're just like, oh, this will get picked up, or, I love this story. It worked. And then when you read it years later, like, I was terrible. What was I thinking?
I don't need another draft.
Yeah, exactly.
It's finished.
It's good now. Let me send it off to the New Yorker. That's what quantity production is all about. The good stories you write later are an umbrella over the bad stuff you discover you left behind you in the years. It all equals out, and if you love writing, it is all a lark. So that's what I like too, was the fact that he basically says if you have some really good stories, that'll kind of be an umbrella to cover up all the bad shit you wrote, because people aren't going to remember the bad shit you wrote, even if they get published, but it's just not that good. I've had a lot of those. if you have something really fucking good, especially if you get well known like Ray Bradbury, then that lesser stuff, people are just like, that's just extra stuff we could read.
Right.
But, we have the great works, and that's all that really matters. So this is going to go into, which, like I said, we might actually did this in our original episode. I don't remember, but it's just famous writers telling us how they write and stuff. So I'm just going to go into it. I don't even need to do any precursors here. It's mainly just their quotes. So the first one on this list, sure enough, is Ray Bradbury. That was coincidental. I didn't have that planned. My passions drive me to the typewriter every day of my life, and they have driven me there since I was 12. I've been doing this since he was 12. So I never have to worry about schedules. Some new thing is always exploding into me, and it schedules me. I don't schedule it. It says, get to the typewriter right now and finish this. I wish I had that urgency. Even when I have a project, I know exactly, like the story I'm working on now, I know exactly where it's going, and I should be able to finish it. But just the urgency of like, oh, this needs done. Let me fucking finish it. I can't get that. I don't know what it is.
Well, I think also having, like we said before,
day job.
Yeah, that also gets, because like I don't know about you, but
that's what kills my motivation more than anything is having to work for a living, and then I'm so fucking tired.
Yeah, because like I don't know about you, but like I'll be like at work, be like, oh, I want to when I get a chance to write tonight, I want to. This is what I want to happen. This da 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 da, and then when you get down, you're just like, I don't know how to do it.
That's why almost all my progress lately has been at work on lunch.
Yeah,
like I just write.
Like they're like I'm stuck. Like I'm in the middle of a conversation with two characters in my story, and I know what I want them to do, and but it's like I can't find that beginning or whatever, that thing to get it going.
The initial thread.
Yeah, that makes it makes sense or what it's just.
It's like when you're trying to thread a needle and you can't get the fucking string through, and it's like once you get it, you're good, but you can't. That little hole, it's so small. Bradbury continues, I can work anywhere. I wrote in bedrooms and living rooms when I was growing up with my parents and my brother in a small house in Los Angeles. I worked on my typewriter in the living room with the radio and my mother and dad and brother all talking at the same time. That'd be tough for me. Later on, when I wanted to write Fahrenheit 451, I went up to UCLA and found a basement typing room where if you inserted 10 cents into the typewriter, you could buy 30 minutes of typing time. I didn't know that existed.
Wow.
I wonder how that worked. That's fucking kind of cool.
And that would give you the motivation to be like, I only have 30 minutes. I better get some shit done.
That is interesting, though, if you think of his home life. So there's little Ray Bradbury in the living room just typing. Everybody else going about, that's what he does.
Yeah.
He didn't think anything of it. That's cool. Next up is Joan Didion.
I'm not familiar with him.
It's a lady.
Excuse me.
Thus the name Joan.
Oh, I thought you said Joe.
No, not Joe. Oh, I can't remember what the fuck she wrote. Well, here's her writing schedule. I need an hour alone before dinner with a drink. I remember this, actually, yeah. I need an hour alone before dinner with a drink to go over what I've done that day. I can't do it late in the afternoon because I'm too close to it. Also, the drink helps. It removes me from the pages. So, see, drinking makes me...
sloggy?
Not even just one drink. Like, I could do some writing, but it changes my creative output to wanting to imbibe on some reading versus actually wanting to do, the output myself. I want to input. Changes output to input. Sometimes it does that. Also, the first drink helps. It removes me from the pages. So I spend this hour taking things out and putting other things in. I usually, when I go back to my work, that's what I always do. I start with what you've seen now. I go back many paragraphs and I just start reworking, almost like editing kind of. Like I'll move things and change things until I get back in the story. Then new stuff comes out. It's very rare that I go back to what I, continue a story and I just immediately go into the story. Like I don't go back and rewrite a few things. When I'm really working, I don't like to go out or have anybody to dinner because then I lose the hour. If I don't have the hour and start the next day with just some bad pages and nowhere to go, I'm in low spirits. Another thing I need to do when I'm near the end of the book is sleep in the same room with it. That's one reason I go home to Okay, that's a little weird to get a little romantic with your book. Yeah, but I do agree with the going back and, changing things. And so Ray Bradbury seemed about urgency and continually writing something new, whereas Joan Didion was about going back and slowing down and taking that hour. Next up is E.B. White. I never listen to music when I'm working. I haven't that kind of attentiveness, and I wouldn't like it at all. It depends what I'm writing, but usually silence.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm able to work fairly well among ordinary distractions. My house was a living room that is at the core of everything that goes on. It is a passageway to the cellar, to the kitchen, we get it. But it's a bright, cheerful room, and I often use it as a room to write in, despite the carnival that is going on around me. A girl pushing a carpet sweeper under my typewriter table has never annoyed me, particularly. That would piss me right the fuck off. Carpet sweeper, I like that. Yeah, the sweeper. Nor has it taken my mind off my work. So this guy locks in, and so like Ray Bradbury, he could lock in and not be distracted. I can do that when I get into it, but if you're doing shit around me before I'm like really into the story, that's not going to work out so well. Jack Kerouac. I had a ritual. He's probably just drinking a bunch of it. I had a ritual once of lighting a candle and writing by its light and blowing it out when I was done for the night. Also, kneeling and praying before starting. Weird. I got that from a French movie about George Frederick Handel. But now I simply hate to write. Okay, that sounds more like you then. My superstition, I'm beginning to suspect the full moon. Also, I'm hung up on the number 9, though I'm told a Piscian like myself should stick to number 7, but I try to do 9 touchdowns a day. That is, I stand on my head in the bathroom, on a slipper, and touch the floor 9 times with my toe tips while balanced. This isn't incidentally more than yoga, it's an athletic feat, okay? I mean, imagine calling me on balance after that. Frankly, I do feel that my mind is going, so another ritual, as you call it, is to pray to Jesus to preserve my sanity and my energies. He basically did everything but right.
Yeah.
Jack Kerouac is famous for dying young from being a raging alcoholic and a curmudgeon. But at one time, he wrote On the Road and
has a cool name.
The Dharma Bums, which I did read. The Dharma Bums was very good. But yeah, I couldn't imagine his writing style being ever routine. He does add some things, though. The desk in the room near the bed with a good light, midnight till dawn, a drink when you get tired, preferably at home, but if you have no home, make a home out of your hotel room or motel room. So he just wrote when he was around. Next up is Susan Sontag. She wrote this in her diary. I don't know who Susan Sontag is. Starting tomorrow, if not today, I will get up every morning no later than 8. Can break this rule once a week. I will have lunch only with Roger Strauss. No, I don't go out for lunch. Can break this rule once every 2 weeks. So only with Robert Strauss. So you should make a rule. You could only go to lunch with Robert Strauss. Otherwise, you're writing.
Oh, man.
I will write in the I don't know if Robert Strauss is alive.
I would probably say probably not.
I will write in the... Yeah, this was from 1977. I will write in the notebook every day. Model Lichtenberg's waste books. I will tell people not to call in the morning or not... Or she just won't answer the phone, I guess. I will try to confine my reading to the evening. I read too much as an escape from writing. Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling. I've done that many a time. I will answer letters once a week. Friday, I have to go to the hospital anyway. And then in her Paris Review interview, she follows up with, I write with a felt tip pen or sometimes a pencil on yellow or white legal pads, that fetish of American writers. I never liked the writing like stories on a legal pad. Not fancy enough for a guy like me.
You like a fancy notebook?
Yeah, you can do your outlines, but yeah, I need a fancy notebook. I like the slowness of writing by hand. Then I type it up and scrawl all over that and keep on retyping it, each time making corrections both by hand and directly on the typewriter until I don't see how to make it any better. If you wrote by typewriter, the edits would be such a more intimate process.
Oh, yeah.
Because it wouldn't be instantaneous. You have to write by hand on the manuscript and then go and retype it. And you'd really get to know your story, but I think I would get to hate my stories a lot more.
Which is saying something because we already hate them now.
Exactly. Then I type it up and scroll over that and keep on retyping. Up to 5 years ago, that was it. Since then, there is a computer in my life. After the second or third draft, it goes into the computer, so I don't retype the whole manuscript anymore, but continue to revise by hand on a succession of hard copy drafts from the computer. And then she also says, I write in spurts. I write when I have to because the pressure builds up and I feel enough confidence that something has matured in my head. And she writes that. So. Next up is Henry Miller from 1932. He wrote, mornings. Here is straight schedule. Mornings. If groggy, type notes and allocate as stimulus. If in fine fettle, write. So if you're finally fettled.
Yeah.
What does fettle mean? I gotta look that up. Just a fine condition.
Okay.
Fucking writers.
Trying to find fine condition?
Yeah. Afternoons. Work of section in hand, following plan of section scrupulously. No intrusions, no diversions. Write to finish one section at a time for good and all. I don't do it, but I should learn to write full scenes at least in a writing session.
Or at least as much as you can get of that full scene.
No, you do a full scene. Don't stop till scene's full.
But I like to sleep.
Evenings. See friends, read in cafes, Explore unfamiliar sections on foot if wet, on bicycle if dry, so he's a walker. Write if in mood, but only on minor program. Paint if empty or tired. Make notes, make charts, plans, make corrections of MS. Note, allow sufficient time during daylight to make an occasional visit to museums or an occasional sketch or an occasional bike ride. Sketch in cafes and trains and streets. Cut the movies, library for reference once a week. It must be so fucking nice to just be a writer and that's all you have to worry about. So you can do like the Nicholas Obergon traversing the fucking city every day and go to cafes and just live the goddamn cosmopolitan life that we are not afforded because we started too late.
Yeah.
Damn it. Too late and in the wrong time period. Can't even be a proper bindle stiff anymore.
Nah, it's a shame.
Yeah. 1965, Simone de Beauvoir did an interview about her writing. I'm always in a hurry to get it going, though in general I dislike starting the day. I first have tea and then about it. Okay. You know what? Let's see. Ernest Hemingway.
No.
More famous. Nothing against Simone de Beauvoir, but it's just a lot of tea and... but Ernest Hemingway is the guy you want to read about. We actually already know all this, but he liked to write standing up, which I thought was cool.
Really?
Yeah. At least until his old age, he was a stander. When I am working on a book or a story, I write every morning as soon after first light as possible. There is no one to disturb you, and it is cool or cold, and you come to your work and warm as you write. You read what you have written, and as always, stop when you know what is going to happen next. You go on from there. He was famous for even stopping mid-sentence, so he would know where to pick up better. Like, I can finish the sentence and get right back into it. So he was a rereader like me, but I don't know if he specifically edited, like he just would go back into the story. You write until you come to a place where you still have your juice and know what will happen next, and you stop and try to live through until the next day when you hit it again. You have started at 6 in the morning, say, and may go on until noon or be through before that. When you stop, you are as empty and at the same time never empty but filling as when you have made love to someone you love. Nothing can hurt you, nothing can happen, nothing means anything until the next day. When you do it again, it is the wait until the next day that is hard to get through. I think Hemingway had an issue, though, where he would finish a book and he'd be in, like, no man's land. I don't know if he...
Until the next one started?
Yeah, I think he was one of those guys that didn't...
Like, there'd be, like, long breaks in between his stuff?
Something like that. If I remember correctly, especially later in life, he struggled with having a project already in mind. And Fitzgerald, he, at some point, just didn't write at all. He just couldn't anymore. Don DeLillo tells the Paris Review, I work in the morning... That's another one we need to read some Don DeLillo. Apparently, he's very... good. I work in the morning as at a manual typewriter. I do about 4 hours and then go running. This helps me shake off one world and enter another. Trees, birds, drizzle. It's a nice kind of interlude. Then I work again later afternoon for 2 or 3 hours. Back into book time, which is transparent. And he does no cigarettes and stuff. Let's read Ben Franklin. Ooh, that's the actual picture. So Ben Franklin's morning question, what shall I do this day? So he asked him that question. Rise, wash, and address powerful goodness. I want to wake up and address powerful goodness. Contrive day's business and take the resolution of the day. Prosecute the present study. Prosecute? I can't read it. It's too small. And breakfast. It's a picture.
That's weird, yeah.
He works at 9 a.m. Oh, by the way, that's 5 to 7 a.m. He does that first thing. 9 a.m. he works. 12 p.m. or lunch, noon. Read or overlook my accounts and dine. He works. Okay, not very interesting. Maybe we'll end on this one. Oh, we're only 25 minutes in. It feels like we're 6 hours. Haruki Murakami.
Hey.
You know that guy now.
Yeah.
When I'm in writing mode for a novel, I get up at 4 a.m. and fuck you.
Whoa.
And work for them. Japanese are very not determined, disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm writing in writing mode for a novel, I get up at 4 a.m. and work for 5 to 6 hours. In the afternoon, I run for 10 kilometers. Only 10 kilometers?
No,
I run for 10 kilometers or swim for 1,500 meters or do both. So what is 10 kilometers? Like, let me see if there's a conversion. We're dumb Americans, sorry. Convert. Look at that. That's cool. I didn't even know that was a feature. Only 6 miles.
Is that for the swimming or the running?
That's for the running. He does 1,500 meters swimming. I don't know what that is. I'm used to converting kilograms to pounds, which the conversion is 2.2. So pounds weigh more than the kilometer, right? Or no, 2.2. So I guess it's less. Why can't we just be smart? Like, why do we have to have the dumbass system?
Well, we don't have enough time in the podcast for that, Caleb.
I go to bed at 9 p.m. I don't. Your Kami does. I keep to this. Oh, wait. I skipped the section. After his swim and run, he reads a bit and listens to some music. It also helps that he's a millionaire. I go to bed at 9 p.m. I keep to this routine every day without variation. The repetition itself becomes the important thing. It's a form of mesmerism. I mesmerize myself for reach a deeper state of mind. Going with him and Stephen King, that's the thing I always find interesting is people talk about, why don't they retire? Why are they still writing? But if they're as rich as they are and they're still writing, that means they actually like writing.
Right, yeah.
So who are you to tell them not to write anymore? You don't have to read it, but if they obviously have a passion still.
And obviously there's still, I mean, especially with both of them, they have their fan groups that are just going to buy and read whatever. But I mean, the majority of it has still been pretty good. So it's not like the quality of the stories have been like lacking,
Exactly. So next up, William Gibson in the Paris Review, 2011. When I'm writing a book, I get up at 7, I check my email and do internet ablutions, I don't know what that is. As we do these days, I have a cup of coffee. 3 days a week, I go to Pilates and I'm back by 10. So he does a bunch of stuff. Maya Angelou in the Paris Review, 1990. I write in the morning and then go home about midday and take a shower because writing, as you know, is very hard work. So you have to do a double ablution. Not that word again. Then what does that mean? Used twice in a row. Ablution, the act of washing oneself. They're just washing. Say you're washing. Then I go out and shop. I'm a serious cook and pretend to be normal. I play saying, good morning. Fine, thank you. And you? And I go home. I prepare dinner for myself. If I have house guests, I do the candle. Okay, so any more writing or just a bunch of chores and whatnot, it seems. A nice Nin, I don't know who this is, but 1941, she said, I write my stories in the morning, my diary at night. And then she added, I write every day. I do my best work in the morning. Okay. And that's all. What is your daily writing routine, Spencer? If you had to say as close to possible.
Well, at work, I've been trying to fit it in where I can, even if I can get even 100 or so words just at work. Just something. Because then I also feel that's also trying, like we said, get the creative going. I'm already kind of thinking, got something out. So then whenever I get home, I can, there's something there I can already kind of, I've already been thinking about. But then, so there's the work, and then there's normally the gym after the work, and then the eating after the gym, and then the cleaning up afterwards, and then
passing out.
But by that time, it's normally within the 7 to 7:30 range, and then so I try to get some writing in between 7:30 or 8 until 9ish, or depending on how well I'm feeling it. If I'm feeling really good, I try to go a little bit longer. But if I'm just kind of struggling, I'm and it's 9, after 9, it's just well, at least I got something put in.
Yeah. Well, as we've discussed before, the important thing with the first draft is just to chip away at it till it's done, and then you could rewrite it.
Yeah.
And for me, I find the rewriting part is where the real work starts, and it's not as daunting as, even if you go over 100 times, it's never as daunting as just creating the story. Once the story's out there, though, you can shape it any way you want, and I like that part. But the initial writing of the story, I find, more often than not, it doesn't flow easily.
Right.
Even if I know what story I'm going to write. There's a few times where I've written a whole story in one session, but that's very rare. So I find that if you can just get that first draft done, take a little bit of a break, and then you can go back, and usually that's not very problematic, at least for me, because my writing routine is, like I said, I've been getting, because I'm always creative in the morning.
Yeah.
So I try to do some writing at work in between what I'm doing, just on my phone, and that seems to work. Evening time, it's hard for me to do it,
Yeah.
It's by the time I get home, I'm tired and I just don't have the creative juices anymore. It's even hard to read a lot anymore I read at bedtime, but generally I can't just go home and just start reading.
Well, I've just even noticed I would probably have more of that October Country done, but even where I'm at work at lunch, after 10 or 15 minutes of reading, I had to put the book down, put my head down for 5 minutes, and so because I'll start to get the headache, or I'll just I'll just start my eyes will just close and I nod off, and just I'm just fucking tired, and reading just exacerbates it.
It just, like you said before, the day job. One thing it seems almost all these writers had in common is no real day job.
None. Or they're writing in some way and involve their day job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if we had an office job, we've listened to many podcasts where writers have office jobs and they just do a lot of writing. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Write a whole fucking story at work, but I don't
look
know.
at Caleb, man, really going through those accounts over there.
He's
Just
He is a busy beaver.
skipping lunch.
I don't know. I make, like, when I am in a story, a lot of times I find I do make good progress, especially on the editing phase. But now the editing I could do at home fine. Like after work, I don't know why, that's a different creative endeavor. So I can sit for hours after work, even though I'm tired, and do editing and rewrites and stuff. But it's just that first part of the first draft of a story. I really struggle with that in the evenings. I don't know why, but I wish I could.
Do you find that even on like the weekends, like evening of the weekends? Like
I don't do a lot of writing on the weekends, even though I always say I'm going to. My mind's not there. I don't know. Something with the routine, my mind's not there. I wish I could be one of those writers like a Ray Bradbury that you could do every day a certain amount of hours. And if I didn't have a job, I could, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'd be fine with that because once you set the routine and stick to it for a couple months, it's good. Like I wouldn't have a problem. But just sticking with that, especially with the way my life is, like I'm always doing shit.
And you don't have like a set thing all the time.
Yeah, it's even my day job. Like if it was like set where I had the same schedule every day, like I have the same hours I work, but like every day I do different things. So I never know when I'm just going to be, I can't be like every morning at 10, I'm going to take a 20-minute break and write. Can't do that. I don't know what my day's going to bring. And often I just get worn down by the elements too, because my work truck does not have air conditioning. It's very hot and I just die. But anyway, that's it. If you folks have any writing routines and creative routines you'd like to share, you can do so by reaching out to us at DPW Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can follow Spencer's OnlyFans. I forget what you are.
The Booger Blaster.
From where?
Something with a B.
Not Boulder. I made it, I don't know. Let's just say Bulgaria. The Bulgarian Booger Blaster. Sounds better. You can check out my stuff, CalebJamesK.com. I got books out. Pick those up and enjoy them. Starlight Pulp should be out now, so check that out. You'll like it. If you don't like it, well, at least the other stories in there are probably good. Anyway, we thank you for listening. We'll check you out next week.